Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. All right, guys, today I am going to be giving you guys 7 players that you need to buy low on right now. Now, these are guys that are either just have been absolutely terrible so far this year, or they're at least coming off one bust week. And this might be your only opportunity to get them because they're big name players. And, if they have one explosion week, people are going to be stubborn and they're not going to want to sell them for a while. So right now might be your only opportunity to get them. So first player on my list is going to be A.J. Brown. Now, you've got to attack A.J. Brown aggressively in the trade market right now. I mean, look, Devontae Smith has been by far and away the better wide receiver in this offense to start the season. We kind of started to see that trend happen a little bit last year where Devontae Smith started to have games where he was out targeting A.J. Brown. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's going to continue to happen. I still think that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith will finish very close together as far as their overall fantasy points at the end of the year. And due to A.J. Brown's size advantage, he still gives you a bigger weekly ceiling than Devontae Smith because they're really equally talented wide receivers, but A.J. Brown has more of that alpha build where he can run people over and, his run after the catch abilities are just absolutely insane. So are Devontae Smith. They're both two very good wide receivers. But the fact of the matter is, I think from a pure talent standpoint, A.J. Brown is still slightly better. And by the end of the season, he still might have more fantasy points. It's at least going to be very close. Right now, people assume that Devontae Smith is just going to be the guy in the offense now. That's absolutely not the case. A.J. Brown is still going to have tons of weeks where he absolutely explodes. And it could happen this coming week. So coming off what will probably be his biggest bust performance of the entire season, I would buy low on A.J. Brown right now before he goes off and has an explosion week and you can't get him in the trade market. Next player on my list is going to be Jaylen Waddle. Now, this is a top-heavy offense, right? They pass to Tyreek Hill and they pass to Jaylen Waddle. That's how they run their offense. Now, this past game, we saw a lot more Raheem Mostert. This was very much because of the fact that Bill Belichick was playing he was dropping a lot of defenders back, and he basically said, hey, Miami, you are not going to beat me with Tyreek Hill or Jaylen Waddle. Right? And that's very smart because that's how Miami likes to beat you. They like to throw the ball downfield, take the top off the defense, and just, it's a gunslinging track and field offense, right? With that being the case, I don't think that teams are necessarily going to do that every week. And Jaylen Waddle, the 11 targets through 2 games is fluky. This dude will see more targets than that. He's going to have games where he sees double-digit targets. And we know that every single target thrown his way is tremendously valuable because of his tremendous speed and big playability, the potent offense that he plays in. This dude's still going to absolutely explode. A little bit disappointing in weeks 1 and 2. I think this might be your only chance of the entire season to get Jaylen Waddle at a reasonable price in the trade market. Next player on my list is going to be Calvin Ridley. Now, this is a guy who has seen 19 targets through 2 games, right? So the target share is very encouraging. For whatever reason, this last game, Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley just couldn't connect against the Chiefs. We expected that to be kind of a shootout-style game, and it ended up being more of a defensive game. Sometimes that happens, but look, Calvin Ridley's going to absolutely explode. We know how talented this guy is. He has a very good rapport, with Trevor Lawrence, and he's his main weapon, right? Calvin Ridley's going to outperform Christian Kirk this year. I don't care if Christian Kirk had a better game last game. I don't care what anybody tries to tell you. Calvin Ridley is by far and away the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and he is going to absolutely explode this season. Right now, coming off a bust week, might be your only chance to get him. Next player on my list is going to be Chris Godwin. Now, Mike Evans has been the guy in the offense, but I don't necessarily think that that's just going to be the case every week, right? Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are pretty close to being equal in talent. I mean, Chris Godwin is a tremendously talented wide receiver. I think that Mike Evans is maybe slightly better when you talk about a pure talent standpoint. But look, Chris Godwin is an elite wide receiver that can eat at all levels of the field. He's great at short intermediate routes, sideline routes, downfield. He's great at running after the catch. He's playing in an offense that looks like it's going to be a little bit better than people expected. I said that going into the year. Don't sleep on Tampa Bay. Godwin and Evans are probably going to go off. I still think that Godwin's going to have a huge season. Take advantage of the fact that it looks like Mike Evans is going to be the only wide receiver in the offense right now. Buy low on Chris Godwin while you have the chance. Next player on my list is going to be Josh Jacobs. Now, this is a guy who's had a bad week 1 and 2. But what's very encouraging is that he's getting all the snaps for the offense. Zamir White is not even a factor in this offense. Zamir White's barely going to touch the football this year. There's very few true workhorse backs left in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is one of them. And we saw how efficient he was last year. Look, this dude was creating yards after contact last year better than any running back in the NFL. He had 1,600 rushing yards in this offense. I still think that Josh Jacobs can have a very good season. The thing about him is he's going to be a little bit matchup dependent. Against really tough defenses, and being in an offense that doesn't have a whole lot of weapons outside of himself and Devontae Adams, he's going to see a lot of stacked boxes, right? But against weak defenses, he's still going to be able to create yardage all by himself because of his tremendous elusiveness and tackle breaking ability. So when you have Josh Jacobs on your team, you have to understand that he's going to be a little bit matchup dependent. But given the right matchup, for example, this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, this dude can give you massive weekly ceiling games like we saw last year, where he had some games where he put up more than 40 points in a standard league. Right? This dude has a massive weekly ceiling. He's going to give you those week-winning performances because of his talent level and because of the fact that he's not splitting a backfield at all whatsoever. He's getting all the touches in the backfield. This dude's still going to be very good, but you've got to make sure that you play him in the right matchups. And there might be some weeks where you bench him against really tough defenses, but he's a huge weapon. Get him in the trade market right now because people are selling him for scraps. Next player on my list is going to be Jaylen Warren. Now, Jaylen Warren, I've been saying this for a while. This guy is going to take over this backfield. And I keep getting pushback on it. I got pushback on it all off season. Jaylen Warren is going to take over this backfield. If the Pittsburgh Steelers want to win games, just feed Jaylen Warren and stop trying to involve Najee Harris so much in this offense. Najee Harris sucks. I've been saying this forever. Najee Harris is not an efficient back. He doesn't have speed. He's not the best tackle breaking guy. Look, for a guy his size, he should break more tackles. He should break more big runs, but he just doesn't have the vision that the elite running backs have. He doesn't. You watch him play and there's certain situations where he could cut one way or another, and he usually cuts the wrong direction because the dude doesn't have the kind of vision that the elite running backs in this league have, and he obviously doesn't have top-end speed. Jaylen Warren has better vision, better speed. He's a better pass catcher, a better receiver. My gosh. Jaylen Warren is so much better than Najee Harris. It's a joke that Najee Harris is still the lead back in this offense. I think you could trade for Jaylen Warren right now because he's still considered a backup. He still hasn't really necessarily gone off yet. But I think there's a chance that this dude ends up kind of just taking over this backfield this season. And even if he splits carries 50-50 down the middle with Najee Harris, he's going to outperform him significantly. So right now you can get Jaylen Warren for almost nothing, and I still think that he is going to have a pretty darn good season. Next player on my list, final player here is going to be Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall was terrible this week against the Cowboys. He carried the ball only 4 times for 9 yards. Now, firstly, nobody runs the ball against the Cowboys, right? There's some defenses where, outside of like Christian McCaffrey and a few other guys at the very top, nobody runs against them, right? So the Cowboys are one of them, right? Nobody runs the ball on the Cowboys. Their defense is too good. And look, Breece Hall, right now, you can get him for almost nothing because he had 0.9 points this last week in PPR formats. He had an absolutely terrible performance. This is the time to buy low on Breece Hall. You will never have a better opportunity to get Breece Hall at a better value in the trade market than you could get him right now. We know that this dude is still super explosive. Even though he's splitting a backfield with Dalvin Cook, this dude is going to give you massive weekly ceiling games and give you week-winning performances. And right now, you can get him for nothing because he's coming off a terrible performance. Take advantage of people not knowing what the heck they're doing. Breece Hall is still going to be an awesome player going forward this season with a very high weekly ceiling. Right now, you can get him for almost nothing. Make a trade for Breece Hall right now before he becomes untradeable. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Catch you later.